We need to talk about this. Halo's biggest problem from Hidden Xperia.
But that Halo's felt a little bit dry in recent times. With only one new game released in almost the last 8 years, it kind of feels like Halo's stories just come to a grinding halt. But despite such low game output, it really doesn't have to be that way. Today, we need to talk about a really important topic: the need for Halo's story to expand. Since their inception, one of 343's biggest focuses has been transmedia. Bungie's primary focus was always the games. Everything else was secondary and, at most, existed in service to the games. Whereas with 343, well, they had a much larger vision. Of course...
Yeah, their larger vision was as much money as they can possibly rake in. And it didn't work. Because, yeah, it'll work initially, but once people catch on to what you're doing, and you keep doing it over and over again, they'd stop buying into your shit.
Games was still number one, but expanding the universe beyond the games and turning Halo into an IP that existed in as many mediums as possible was a goal with almost equal importance placed upon it. And on paper, this is a really great idea.
Halo Legends was really cool, though. Some of them were kind of misses, but there were some that were just like, wow. Some of the best animation of all time.
Especially with an IP like Halo that's got like 1,000,000,001 moving parts. I think we can all agree that Halo just needs more. But obviously not all of that more can come via games. And so a heavy transmedia push just kind of feels right. And you know, it started out really strong as well. In addition to the books that we were already getting under Bungie, we got things like the Mona Lisa, Halo Legends, a load of different styled comics, web series, and so much more. Transmedia is an excellent way to convey.
The web series is better than the Halo TV series by like exponentially better.
Halo's universe through different mediums, in doing so reaching entirely new audiences, and it's also an excellent way to bridge the story gap between games, two strengths that initially at least 343 played into very well. But it's here where we start to run into the problem that we now face. In recent years, this push for Halo content outside of the games seems to have almost entirely dried up. Since 2019, with one small exception that we'll talk about later, the only transmedia content that we've had are books. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Halo books. I've been reading them since...
As Contact Harvest, I used to read the books. I read all of them up until like I graduated high school in 2014.
I was in 2nd grade in 2003, back when I was both, well, young and also dumb enough to think that the Covenant ships being described in First Strike were literally ships with sails. But not only are books a microcosm of Halo's overall transmedia, they also reach a much smaller audience than almost every other form of transmedia. To be perfectly honest with you guys, for me, at least from a content perspective, books are like a dream. So tons of people are interested in their stories, but only a tiny percentage of those people actually read them themselves. So I read them, break them down in a video, and pull hundreds of thousands of views. So yeah, from my perspective, this probably sounds insanely counterintuitive, but I really don't want books to be all that Halo's expanded universe revolves around. You know, truth be told, I really think that Halo's just complete tunnel vision on books in recent years has been to its detriment. It's narrowed down the scope of the wider universe to the vision of 2 to 3 authors. 2 to 3 amazing authors, who I love, by the way, but 2 to 3 authors that can really only produce so much content, and also in a medium that's digested by a tiny percent of broader Halo fans. Halo's expanded universe is such a rich tapestry of lore and story that's begging to be adapted, expanded, and brought to the masses in a far more accessible and digestible format. And you know, this is actually something that we're seeing a ton of other franchises finally dip into as of late. The extreme success of shows like Cyberpunk Edgerunners and Arcane, I think, are the...
I don't think they got it in them. I don't think you should even bring this up, actually. Don't give them ideas.
two greatest examples of IPs dipping into their expanded universes in ways that, ironically, capture that broader audience and grow their games, all while satisfying their core audiences, and then some, at the same time. The Fallout show is another great example of a video game universe being adapted and expanded in a way that caters to both core and broader audiences, and that show has done immense good for the Fallout IP, so much so that Xbox are now talking about actually expediting the development of new Fallout games thanks to the renewed interest in the series that show generated.
I want a legitimate Fallout New Vegas 2, please. Like, from the original creators, not from Obsidian, or from, Obsidian.
You know, despite how genuine
Not from Bethesda either.
good it was, I knew that the Fallout show was going to be a huge success when, all of a sudden, like out of the blue, my mum texted me and told me that she started watching it. Suffice to say, despite her son being a Halo YouTuber, she at no point texted me to tell me that she started watching the Halo TV show, thank God. So, what's the path forward then? Well, it's funny because I think the absolute best way for Halo's transmedia to move forward and capitalize on what broader gaming fans want right now is actually something that it's already done. Something that Halo fans already loved. We need another Halo Legends.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Do not. Please do not. Because they'll make it gay. I already know.
Kind of goes without
Stop
saying,
it.
but anime is very, very popular these days, especially with the younger Gen Z demographics that Halo Studios have repeatedly tried and failed to capture by watering down their games. And so, with the extreme success of Arcane and Edgerunners, and also Halo fans' perpetual love of Halo Legends, I think it's time Halo got another anime series. And one, mind you, that takes absolutely zero notes from the TV show. You know, I wasn't too against the idea of the TV show being a kind of Game of Thrones style adaptation universe over an entirely new story told within the existing universe, but only if it came with early Game of Thrones tier writing quality that, you know, for the most part was able to match the quality of the source material. And I think it's fair to say that that never happened with our beloved Halo TV show, did it?
I don't think there's gonna be another good Halo property, like major property again, like series or game or movie, anything. I don't think they're capable of it. I think they're too big, too popular. Everybody has too high expectations.
The reason Arcane and Edgerunners work so well for their respective franchises is because they give fans an insight into the game's wider universes in a way that the games simply can't. They leveraged the best of the IP, expanded their lore, and told unique stories, all while bolstering the games that fans were already playing. The Halo show didn't do that. It was entirely separate and added nothing. The original Halo Legends, on the other hand, absolutely did do.
They are working with a bastardized version of an IP that a different company started. So, like,
that, and did add to Halo's universe. Yes, even odd one out. That is a hill that I'm willing to die on. With the general appetite of gamers right now, it is the perfect time to open Halo's incredible expanded universe up to the masses with an anime. But the real question is, how should said anime be done? Well, the obvious answer, I think, is just to follow suit and go for a big budget, major studio produced series that premieres on Netflix or Prime or something like that.
And don't try to be different, and don't try to make it yours, and don't try to be new, and don't try to make it for modern audiences. There's too many things there's too many checkboxes they have to check for them. Like, these are no checkboxes. These checkboxes have no beside them. Like, no diversity, no inclusion, none of that stuff.
One that's got a big, hard-hitting marketing campaign that ensures that potential mainstream viewers know that this show has nothing to do with the diabolical TV show that they were just subjected to. I think making that distinction is very important, and also to make them aware that this show expands on the existing Halo universe in a meaningful and interesting way, with of course the added flair that comes from it being an anime. It also needs to be captivating to both Halo audience, but also captivating to people who have no idea what Halo is either. And to be honest with you, that's not that out there. Halo's done that before, and it can absolutely do it again.
All you have to do is just make it normal. Just like take the cutscenes from Halo Reach or Halo 1 and just adapt them into a movie. That's all you gotta do, or a show, or an anime. That's all you gotta do. You just pretty much one for one, just take those vibes. Don't try to add your own flair to it, because you're gonna fuck it up. Because if you're trying to add your own flair to it, automatically right there, I know you're not a Halo fan, you don't know anything about Halo, you're gonna fuck it up.
But after the amount of money that was sunk into that absolute disaster of a TV show, expecting another large investment into another Halo show is probably quite unrealistic. And, you know, to be honest, Halo's already shown that it doesn't need to rely on high-budget, Hollywood-produced content of this style to be successful. Instead, a much cheaper kind of mainstream transmedia content that Halo's actually also dabbled in before, to amazing effect, are shorts. Not seasonal shows with 8 20 to 30-minute episodes every year, but rather maybe a couple videos released online that come in around the 10-minute mark. And I think two perfect examples of this are Landfall and We Are ODST. Despite releasing both 17 and 15 years ago respectively, these two trailers, and I use the term trailers very loosely with how they are just utter masterclasses of translating the Halo aura to live action, and are still beloved by fans and gamers in general. Not just Halo fans, but gamers that don't really have much of an attachment to Halo still love these shorts. I think this template is something that should really be expanded on, and, you know, funnily enough, that's actually the main way that Tarkov does its transmedia content, and I gotta say, it is wildly successful for that game. So to tell both its quote-unquote live service story, I say quote-unquote because Tarkov is by no means a conventional live service, and also to expand its universe, BSG, the developers of Tarkov, do various series of live-action shorts that they post to their YouTube, almost entirely produced and acted by the developers, and although it's clear that their budgets are nothing remotely close to, say, that of the Fallout show, for example, they're still really high quality and deliver stories from Tarkov's expanded universe in ways that no other developer is doing right now. And because of their quality, they reach astronomically large audiences. I'm talking tens upon tens upon tens.
I've never actually played Tarkov, all I know about it is the wiggle. I heard Linus Tech Tips talk about it.
Of millions of viewers. Their reach far extends that of Tarkov's player base because, at the end of the day, they're insanely enjoyable to watch, whether you're addicted to the game that they're attached to or don't even know it exists, which in turn opens up the universe and the game to potential players who otherwise wouldn't have even considered engaging with Tarkov content, let alone actually consider trying the game out. And I think if Halo Studios could kill it making content like that for Halo, we'd be in a really good spot. Just imagine, for example, close your eyes and imagine if they did something like Tarkov's Chronicles of Rizzy, but with ODSTs, where, say, every few months, they release a brand new 10 to 15 minute long video entry in a gritty story that follows a contingent of ODSTs struggling to survive on the banished occupied Zeta Halo. Or imagine if they took Hugh Din and Sigrid Eklund from Infinite's now dead service story and told stories from their past, from Eklund's time as an army ranger.
Right, like that's what I was saying. Make some ODST style games, or like make a show that's based on characters that are new. It's not Master Chief, or characters that have existed in the books, or you know, make some new stuff. Stop trying to reinvent the old stuff.
Or from Din's past as a headhunter. You get the point. I think I can ease off the smooth ASMR voice now. There are so many little tidbits of lore from the universe that you could use to build an entire series of live action shorts from. In the context of Tarkov, these shorts are typically created to kind of feed into new content releases, but I don't really think that would be necessary for Halo. I mean, if they were created solely to explore the expanded universe in new ways and to tell stories that are adjacent or even entirely disconnected from the games, people would still love them all the same, and they'd still act as an amazing marketing tool because, at the end of the day, they're Halo.
That's
and
cool,
the best
though.
thing about these shorts is that, again, there are so many ways to do them. Of course, you could do them in live action. You could also do these shows in an anime style as well. But a style that I think would really suit Halo would be if they were CGI rendered, kind of in the same
CGI rendered and maybe cell shaded. Maybe make them cell shaded like Borderlands. That'd be kind of cool.
vein as Love, Death and Robots, which has actually again exploded in popularity in recent years. And you know what? That'd be a great excuse to finally get
like the Final Fantasy movie. I've only seen one. I know there's more than one, I think. Only seen one.
brains behind Halo Landfall back on the franchise, the one and only Neil Blomkamp. If you've seen any of Neil's stuff from, of course, Landfall to District 9, Elysium, and so much more, you'll know that he's got a really unique visual style. It's a very kind of gritty, visceral style that I think works really well with Halo, and as Landfall obviously showed. Neil also has a VFX production company called Oat Studios, with which he's made a load of, like, insanely cool animated shorts, exactly like what I'm describing for Halo. Now, quick side note, if you've never watched any of his Oat shorts, then please, I'm begging you, do yourself a favor and go and watch them. They are genuinely incredible. They also predated Love, Death and Robots as well, and the whole hype that show brought, so in a way, Neil was pretty far ahead of the curve there. In every way imaginable, these kinds of shorts telling various stories from across the Halo universe, from tales of heroism and valor within the UNSC, to tales of honor within the Covenant or Swords of St. Helios, tales of horror involving the Flood, and so much more, it would be an incredible way to restart Halo's transmedia push and create expanded universe content that caters to Halo fans whilst also reaching broader audiences and getting them interested in Halo, either again or for the first time ever. Oh, and also the upside of doing CG shorts over, say, live action is that you aren't restricted by what you can show, because realistically, bringing the Flood to life in live action would be much harder and much more expensive than doing it in a CG environment, and same goes for the Covenant, the Banish, and pretty much anything else. Truth be told, I genuinely can't believe this hasn't happened yet for Halo. I don't get it. I mean, fans are so desperate for this to happen that they've literally resorted to doing it themselves. Of course, you've got Halo VFX and all of his legendary work on Charity Fall.
Halo AI game when? When are we going to start being able to generate video games? I want a generated Halo game, because I think an AI generated video game is going to end up giving us something better than what these garbage people can shit out.
And all the other miniseries that he's working on. You've got Sodas, who made that awesome animation last year. Then there's Halo Raptor on the horizon by Sparrow Films that looks absolutely incredible, and likely so many other CG-based Halo fan projects that I haven't mentioned that are getting bigger out there as well. When fans are so desperate for something that they resort to making it themselves, and then what they make gets immensely popular, that really goes to show that there's a huge market that's not being tapped into.
Yeah, what was that game that got super popular? It was like a Portal mixed with Halo game. It was like Splitgate or something like that.
However, visual content isn't the only alternate form of transmedia that Halo can and should be creating. In fact, a much lower budget, much lower production quality, and yet equally impactful way to explore the expanded universe is through audio dramas, which I think are really slept on nowadays. And yet again, this is something that not just
I do like me some audio dramas. I listen to them every once in a while. I like audiobooks too, though, so that I'm kind of into the audio stuff. I listen to a lot of audio podcasts. I read books.
Halo, but 343/Halo Studios specifically have excelled at in the past. I mean, you go and find even the most ardent 343 hater and you ask them what they think of Hunt the Truth, and I guarantee that even they will sing that audio drama's praises. It was an utter masterclass of writing and sound design, and honestly, was probably the most immersive piece of Halo content ever made. 343 actually did another audio drama a few years ago that was pretty good as well, but it kind of flew under the radar because they released it right at the same time as Infinite. It was called Halo Memory Agent, and it followed the story of an Oni agent who was trying to relay information to Chief, but every 7 hours, her memory resets. It was a really unique story featuring some extremely surprising appearances from very original characters that I never expected to hear from again, but that was also really good as well. I think regardless of era, whether it's Isle of Bees, Hunt the Truth, or Memory Agent, audio dramas have proven to be an excellent way to tell expanded universe Halo stories, and with how little production needs to go into them compared to at least an anime or a TV show or anything CG based, I'm amazed that they haven't become a mainstay of the franchise, because they absolutely should have been. Okay, I want to talk briefly now about the structure that these transmedia stories should be told in, because if they're done in a certain way, they could actually very easily remedy one of the biggest issues that Halo faces nowadays: consistency. Halo stories excel when they're told in a robust, consistent trilogy format. I mean, the original trilogy is, of course, the shining example of this, but also the Forerunner trilogy is as well, and honestly, even Kilo 5. When stories have definitive beginning, middle, and end points, you feel like you're actually along for a ride, whereas with modern Halo, you really don't have that consistency. Like, each new 343 game, it's a running joke at this point, but each one just feels like it resets the trilogy that it was meant to continue.
I don't even remember what the story from Halo 4 and 5 were, because they don't mean anything anymore. I remember what Halo 1, 2, and 3 stories were.
The Reclaimer trilogy, or saga as it was meant to be, just never ended up happening because each successive game reset the trilogy back to the beginning. And we're at the point now where people find it really hard to get invested in a new campaign, because the likelihood is, when the next game releases, it's just going to get written out at some point and finish in a book or something. Transmedia content, though, can help to remedy that problem. I mean, it'd be so easy to structure the content that we've already discussed today in either a trilogy format or, to be honest, any kind of format that just ensures a beginning, middle, and end point. Halo excels with trilogies, but honestly I think the main thing that it needs to avoid is starting a story with no intention of finishing it. Whether that's a trilogy or a saga or something else entirely, you've just gotta make sure you stick with something.
Yeah, they're just sticking stuff in to fill it out so they can have a game that has microtransactions in it with the Halo IP. That's what they wanted. All the other stuff in it is just filler.
If Halo can recommit to its transmedia push and open up the expanded universe to broader gaming fans, whilst also using said push to bridge the gap between games with fresh stories that don't just come in the form of 1 to 2 books a year, then I cannot even begin to tell you how much healthier Halo in general would feel. I have a feeling if that happened, we could start to think that we'd be back. Decoupling the expansion of Halo's universe from solely happening in games and books would allow so many more stories to be told in so many different mediums, and frankly, I can't believe it's not happened yet. You know, it's quite funny to me that when you think about it, Halo was actually way ahead of the curve with the whole transmedia thing, but as soon as 343 started to falter with it, it started to take off in the broader gaming scene. Classic. But now is a better time than ever to recommit to the push and
Halo got Star Wars.
Give us more Halo story content. What kind of transmedia content would you like to see for Halo? What styles of content would you like to see? Let me hear it down below in the comments, and if you agree with the message of this video, make sure to show some support down below with a like and the sub and all the usual YouTube crap. And so, with that said, let's round this one out there. I want to give a huge thank you.
I'll give him a like and the sub, but I disagreed with this video quite heavily. I think they should stop making Halo content and give it to somebody else, because they keep flubbing everything. Obviously, they have yet to show that they can actually do something good. Halo 4, I think was the best thing that they did, and it was garbage. And it just got worse and worse and worse from there.